The rain tapped gently against the window as Maya pressed her face close to the glass. She could see the whole city from her apartment on the 15th floor. Car lights moved like tiny stars below, and people hurried along the sidewalks with their umbrellas up. Everything looked so small from up here, yet so familiar. 4 months. That's how long she had been away from home. 4 whole months working on an amazing project in the mountains of South America. She was part of a team that discovered old temples and ancient pottery. It was the job she had always dreamed of. But being so far from home was harder than she thought it would be. Maya walked away from the window and looked at her small apartment. Everything was exactly how she left it. Her favorite coffee mug sat on the kitchen counter. Her plants were still alive, thanks to her neighbor who watered them twice a week. Her books were stacked on the table, waiting for her to finish reading them. But something felt different. Maybe it was her. Maybe 4 months of sleeping in tents and eating around campfires had changed her. Maybe walking through ruins that were thousands of years old had made her see life differently. She picked up her phone and scrolled through the messages. Her family was excited she was back. Her friends wanted to meet for dinner. But there was one person she hadn't told about coming home early. One person who thought she was still thousands of miles away, probably sitting around a campfire right now. Alex. Just thinking his name made her heart beat faster. They had been together for 2 years before she left for this job. 2 wonderful years of morning coffee together, long walks in the park, and quiet evenings watching movies on his old couch. When the job offer came, they both knew it was too good to pass up. But they also knew it would be hard. The first month apart was the worst. Maya would wake up and reach for her phone, forgetting about the 5-hour time difference. She would call him when he was in important meetings. He would message her when she was deep underground in ancient tunnels with no phone signal. Slowly, they found their rhythm. Video calls every Sunday morning. Long text messages about their days. Photos of everything. His morning coffee, her view of the mountains, his new haircut, her muddy boots after a long day of digging. But lately, something felt off. Their calls were getting shorter. His messages took longer to answer. When she asked about it, he said work was just busy. When he asked if she was okay, she said the same thing. Maya knew the truth, though. They were both scared. Scared that 4 months apart might have changed them too much. Scared that love couldn't survive this much distance. Scared that when she came back, things would be different. That's why she decided not to tell him she was coming home 3 days early. She wanted to surprise him. She wanted to see his real reaction when he saw her. She wanted to know if his eyes would still light up the same way they did before she left. Maya went to her bedroom and opened her suitcase. It smelled like mountain air and campfire smoke. She pulled out the small wooden box she had bought at a local market. Inside was a simple silver bracelet with a tiny sun charm. She had seen it and immediately thought of Alex because he always said she was his sunshine. She put the bracelet in her jacket pocket and grabbed her keys. Alex lived only 20 minutes away by subway. She had memorized his schedule during their video calls. On Tuesday evenings, he always worked late on his computer projects. He would be home, probably, wearing his favorite old t-shirt and drinking tea from the mug she had given him for his birthday. The subway ride felt like it took forever. Maya kept checking her reflection in the dark windows. Her hair was longer now and her skin was darker from all those days working under the bright mountain sun. Would he notice? Would he like how she looked? As the train pulled into his station, Maya felt butterflies dancing in her stomach. She had traveled across continents to get home, but these last few blocks felt like the longest journey of all. She walked slowly through his neighborhood, past the little coffee shop where they used to meet for breakfast, past the bookstore where they spent hours browsing together. Everything looked the same, but she felt like she was seeing it all for the first time. Finally, she stood in front of his apartment building. The same red brick walls, the same blue door, the same window box with flowers that never seemed to grow properly. She had a key. He had given it to her before she left, saying her home would always be with him. Maya took a deep breath and put the key in the lock. Her hands were shaking a little. This was it. In just a few minutes, she would know if coming home early was the right choice. She would know if love really could survive anything. The door opened quietly and she stepped into the familiar hallway. She could hear soft music coming from his apartment upstairs. Classical music. He always listened to it when he was working on something important. Maya smiled for the first time in weeks. Some things never change. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what she needed to hear. Alex pushed his chair back from the desk and rubbed his tired eyes. The computer screen glowed bright in the dark room, showing lines of code that seemed to dance and blur together. He had been working for 6 hours straight, trying to finish this project before the deadline tomorrow. But his mind kept wandering to Maya. 3 days. It had been 3 whole days since her last message. Usually she sent him photos every morning, pictures of the sunrise over the mountains or the old stones she was cleaning, or even just her coffee cup sitting on a wooden table. But lately, nothing. He picked up his phone and scrolled through their old conversations. Just 2 weeks ago, she had sent him a video of herself laughing as a baby llama tried to eat her hat. Her laugh was exactly the same as always, bright and musical like wind chimes on a summer day. But in their recent video calls, she seemed different, quieter, more thoughtful. Maybe it was just the work. Maya had told him how hard it was spending long days digging in the hot sun, carefully brushing dirt away from ancient pottery pieces. She said some days they worked from sunrise to sunset, and by evening she was too tired to even think properly. Or maybe it was something else. Maybe she was getting tired of their long-distance relationship. Maybe she was meeting new people on her team. Maybe she was realizing that she didn't need him anymore. Alex stood up and walked to the kitchen. The apartment felt too quiet without her. He opened the refrigerator and stared at the contents without really seeing them. Her favorite yogurt was still there, expired now. Her special tea was still in the cabinet. Her toothbrush was still in the bathroom cup. He had kept everything exactly the way she left it. Some of his friends thought it was silly, but it made him feel like she was still part of his daily life. Every morning, he made coffee in both their mugs, even though he drank them both himself. Every night he said goodnight to her pillow before going to sleep. The worst part was Sunday mornings. They used to spend Sunday mornings in bed, reading the news together and making pancakes. Now, Sunday mornings felt empty and too long. He would wake up and reach for her, forgetting for just a moment that she was thousands of miles away. Alex walked back to his desk and looked at the framed photo next to his computer. It was from their last day together before she left. They were at the airport, both trying to smile even though Maya had tears in her eyes. He was holding her tight, as if he could keep her there forever just by not letting go. That day, she had made him promise to live his life while she was gone. She didn't want him to just wait around counting days until she came back. She wanted him to work on his projects, hang out with friends, maybe even take that cooking class he had always talked about. He had tried. Really, he had. He went out with friends on Friday nights. He signed up for a cooking class and learned to make pasta from scratch. He even went on a weekend camping trip with his brother, but everything felt incomplete without Maya there to share it with him. The hardest part was that he couldn't tell her how lonely he was. Every time they talked, he put on a happy face and told her about all the good things happening. He didn't want her to worry about him or feel guilty about following her dreams, so he pretended everything was fine, even when it wasn't. But maybe she could sense it anyway. Maybe that's why their conversations had become shorter and more careful. Maybe they were both trying so hard to protect each other's feelings that they had stopped being honest about their own. Alex heard a sound from somewhere in the apartment, a soft click, like a door closing. He paused and listened but heard nothing else. Probably just the neighbors upstairs. They were always dropping things and making noise at weird hours. He turned back to his computer screen, but the numbers and letters seemed to swim together. He was exhausted, but he knew he wouldn't be able to sleep. Not when his mind was full of questions about Maya and their future together. Would she really come back in a few days like she promised? And if she did, would things be the same between them? Or had 4 months of separation changed them both too much to go back to the way things were? Alex closed his laptop and decided to make some tea. Maya's favorite kind, chamomile with honey. Maybe if he drank it, he would feel closer to her somehow. Maybe it would help him sleep without dreaming about all the things that could go wrong. As he walked toward the kitchen, he heard another sound. This time it was definitely footsteps, in the hallway outside his apartment. Slow, quiet footsteps that seemed to pause right outside his door. He froze and listened. His heart started beating faster. Who would be walking around his building this late at night? The footsteps seemed familiar somehow, but that was impossible. All his neighbors were either old couples who went to bed at 9 o'clock, or young, professionals who worked even later than he did. The footsteps stopped. Alex held his breath and waited. After a long moment, he heard the soft sound of a key sliding into a lock. His lock. Maya stood in Alex's hallway, holding her breath as she listened to the sounds of his apartment. Classical music drifted softly from his study, mixed with the familiar hum of his old refrigerator and the tick of the clock on his kitchen wall. Everything sounded exactly the same as it did 4 months ago. She set her travel bag down carefully by the door, trying not to make any noise. The bag was covered in dust from her long journey. First a bumpy truck ride down the mountain, then 3 different airplane flights, then a taxi through the rainy city streets. She was tired and rumpled, but her heart was beating with excitement. Maya looked around the small entryway and smiled. Alex had kept everything exactly the way she remembered it. Her umbrella was still hanging on the hook by the door. Her extra pair of shoes was still lined up neatly next to his on the mat. Even her favorite sweater was still draped over the back of the chair where she had left it that morning before going to the airport. She walked quietly into the living room, touching familiar objects as she passed them. The couch where they used to watch movies together, the coffee table where they did jigsaw puzzles on Sunday afternoons, the bookshelf where their books were, mixed together, his computer programming manuals next to her archaeology textbooks, his mystery novels next to her poetry books. Everything was clean and organized, but Maya could sense that Alex had been lonely here. There were too many empty coffee cups on the counter. The plants needed watering. A pile of unopened mail sat on the kitchen table, as if he had been too distracted to deal with everyday things. Maya felt a pang of guilt. She had been so focused on her own loneliness that she hadn't really thought about how hard this separation might be for Alex. She had been surrounded by her team members, working on exciting discoveries every day. But Alex had been here alone, going to the same job, coming home to the same empty apartment, waiting for her messages and phone calls to break up the routine. She walked toward his study, where she could hear him typing on his computer. The door was partially open, and she could see him hunched over his desk, his face lit by the blue glow of the screen. His hair was a little longer than when she left, and he was wearing the old gray t-shirt that she had tried to throw away at least 5 times because it had holes in it. Maya felt her eyes fill with tears. Not sad tears, but happy ones. After 4 months of missing him, he was right there, just a few feet away, real and solid and exactly himself. She reached into her jacket pocket and felt the small wooden box with the silver bracelet inside. She had imagined this moment so many times, during her long journey home. In her imagination, she would call his name and he would turn around and his face would light up with joy. They would run to each other like people do in movies, and everything would be perfect. But now that she was actually here, Maya felt nervous. What if he wasn't happy to see her? What if her surprise visit felt like pressure instead of a gift? What if 3 days didn't seem like much time to him, and he thought she was being silly by coming home early? Maya took a deep breath and reminded herself why she had made this choice. She had come home early because she realized something important while she was away. All the amazing discoveries and beautiful mountain views in the world couldn't compare to the feeling of being with someone who loved her. Her work was important to her, but Alex was more important. She started removing her travel clothes quietly. First her dusty jacket, which she hung carefully on the back of a chair, then her scarf, which still smelled like mountain air and airplane recycled air, her boots, which had walked through ancient ruins and modern airport terminals. Each piece of clothing that came off made her feel more like herself and less like a tired traveler. Finally, she was ready. She walked slowly toward the study, her bare feet silent on the wooden floor. Alex was still typing, completely focused on his work. Maya stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching him. He looked older somehow, more serious. But he was still the same person who used to make her laugh until her stomach hurt, who remembered exactly how she liked her coffee, who sent her good morning messages even when he was running late for work. Maya took one more step into the room. The floorboard creaked softly under her foot. Alex's typing stopped. He sat very still for a moment, as if he wasn't sure he had really heard something. Then slowly, he began to turn around in his chair. This was it. The moment Maya had been dreaming about for 4 months. The moment when her long journey home would finally be complete. Time seemed to stop completely as Alex turned around in his chair. His eyes went wide, and for a moment he just stared as if Maya was a ghost that might disappear if he blinked too hard. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "Hi," Maya said, softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex stood up so quickly that his chair rolled backward and hit the desk. Papers scattered to the floor, but he didn't seem to notice. He just stood there looking at her like he couldn't believe she was real. Maya. Her name came out cracked and uncertain, as if he was afraid to say it out loud. She nodded suddenly, feeling shy. After all those months of imagining this moment, she didn't know what to say. All her planned words seemed to have disappeared from her mind. "But you're not supposed to be back until Friday," Alex said, still not moving from behind his desk. "Your last message said you were still at the dig site." "I finished early," Maya said, taking a small step into the room. "I wanted to surprise you." Alex's face went through about 10 different expressions in 5 seconds. Surprise, joy, confusion, worry, and finally something that looked like relief mixed with disbelief. "Are you really here?" he asked, his voice soft and wondering. Instead of answering with words, Maya walked across the room toward him. With each step, Alex's expression grew brighter, as if he was finally starting to believe what his eyes were telling him. When she was close enough to touch him, Maya stopped and really looked at his face. He had lost some weight while she was gone, and there were tired lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. But his eyes were still the same warm brown that made her feel safe, still looking at her like she was the most important thing in the world. "You look different," Alex said, reaching out slowly to touch her face as if he needed to make sure she wasn't just his imagination. "Your hair is longer, and you're so tan." 4 months in the mountains will do that," Maya said, leaning into his touch. His hand was warm and familiar against her cheek. "I can't believe you're here," Alex whispered. "I was just thinking about you. I was worried because you hadn't messaged in 3 days." "I'm sorry about that," Maya said. "We were packing up the site and the internet was terrible. I wanted to tell you I was coming home, but I also wanted to surprise you." Alex pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her like he never wanted to let her go again. Maya buried her face in his shoulder and breathed in his familiar smell, coffee and soap and the detergent he always used on his clothes. "I missed you so much," he said into her hair. "Every single day. I kept your coffee mug on the counter and made coffee for both of us every morning." Maya felt tears starting in her eyes. "I missed you too. More than I thought possible. I would wake up and reach for you, and you weren't there." They stood there holding each other for a long moment, not talking, just breathing each other in. Maya could feel Alex's heartbeat against her cheek, steady and strong. She could feel his arms around her, real and warm, and exactly where she wanted to be. "I brought you something," Maya said finally, pulling back just enough to reach into her pocket. She pulled out the small wooden box and handed it to him. Alex opened it carefully and smiled when he saw the silver bracelet with the tiny sun charm. "It's beautiful," he said. "I saw it at a market in the village near our camp," Maya explained. "The lady who made it said the sun represents coming home to the people you love." Alex lifted the bracelet out of the box and looked at it more closely. "It's perfect," he said, "but you didn't have to bring me anything. Having you here is the best gift in the world." "I know," Maya said, "but I wanted you to have something that reminded you of this moment, of me coming home to you." Alex set the bracelet carefully on his desk and took both of Maya's hands in his. "Maya?" he said seriously. I need to tell you something. These 4 months have been the hardest of my life. I know I tried to sound happy and busy in our calls, but the truth is I was miserable without you. Maya squeezed his hands. I was miserable, too. I loved the work, and I'm proud of what we discovered. But every amazing moment felt incomplete because I couldn't share it with you. I was so scared, Alex continued, that when you came back, things would be different between us, that maybe you would have outgrown me or found something better out there in the world. Maya shook her head firmly. Alex, listen to me. I saw incredible things these past 4 months. Ancient temples and beautiful sunrises and mountains that touched the clouds. But none of it meant anything compared to missing you. I realized that home isn't a place. It's a person. You're my home. Alex's eyes filled with tears. You're my home too, he said. Always. Maya stood on her tiptoes and kissed him softly. It felt like the first time and the 1,000th time all at once. It felt like coming home after a long, difficult journey. When they broke apart, Maya smiled and said very quietly, Tonight is ours. No work, no distractions, no worrying about tomorrow. Just us. Alex smiled back, the first real smile Maya had seen from him since she walked into the room. Tonight is ours, he agreed. Maya woke up slowly, the way you do when you're perfectly comfortable and don't want the moment to end. Sunlight was streaming through Alex's bedroom curtains, making golden patterns on the ceiling. She was curled up against his chest, listening to his steady breathing, feeling more peaceful than she had in months. They had talked until almost 3 a.m, really talked, in a way they hadn't been able to do over video calls and text messages. Maya told Alex about the ancient pottery she had helped piece together, how some of the pieces were over 1,000 years old. She described the village families who had invited her team to share meals, and how the children had taught her games that had probably been played for generations. Alex told her about his projects at work, including a new community center he was designing with a special children's library. He had been thinking of Maya when he planned it, he said, because she had always loved reading in cozy corners. He also admitted how lonely he had been, how he had started going to bed early just so the days would end faster. I should have been more honest with you, Maya had said, running her fingers through his hair as they lay in the dark. I was trying, so hard to sound happy and independent that I never told you how much I was struggling too. We were both trying to protect each other, Alex had replied, but maybe we protected ourselves right out of being honest. Now, in the bright morning light, Maya thought about how good it felt to be completely honest with someone. To not have to pretend or hide your feelings or worry about saying the wrong thing. That's what real love was, she realized, being able to be completely yourself with another person. Alex stirred beside her and opened his eyes. When he saw her looking at him, his face broke into a sleepy smile. Good morning, he said, his voice rough with sleep. Good morning, Maya replied, kissing his forehead. How did you sleep? Better than I have in 4 months, Alex said, stretching. I kept waking up to make sure you were really here. Maya laughed. I'm really here, and I'm not going anywhere for a very long time. They lay there quietly for a few minutes, just enjoying being together. Maya could hear the city waking up outside, cars honking, people walking their dogs, the coffee shop downstairs starting to get busy. I have something to tell you, Maya said eventually. Alex propped himself up on his elbow, looking suddenly worried. What is it? It's good news, Maya said quickly. The university here offered me a job, teaching archaeology and helping with local dig sites. I can stay home and still do the work I love. Alex's face lit up like Christmas morning. Really? When did this happen? They called me 2 weeks ago, Maya said. I wanted to tell you, but I wanted to tell you in person. I wanted to see your face when you heard. This is incredible, Alex said, sitting up completely now. You can stay home, we can be together. There's more, Maya said, grinning. The job doesn't start until September. That gives me almost 2 months to just be here with you. 2 months. To remember what normal life feels like. Alex pulled her up into a sitting position and kissed her thoroughly. 2 months, he said against her lips. We have 2 whole months. They got up and made breakfast together, moving around the kitchen like a perfectly choreographed dance. Alex made coffee while Maya scrambled eggs. They shared the newspaper and laughed at the funny comics section. It felt so normal and wonderful that Maya almost cried with happiness. What do you want to do today? Alex asked as they finished eating. Everything, Maya said. I want to go to the park and feed the ducks. I want to go to that bookstore we love and browse for hours. I want to cook dinner together and watch a movie on your terrible old couch. I want to do all the normal, boring things I've been dreaming about for 4 months. Alex grinned. That sounds perfect. But first, I want to show you something. He led her to his desk and opened his laptop. On the screen was a blueprint for the community center he had been working on. In the center was a beautiful library with reading nooks built into the walls and big windows that would let in lots of natural light. This is what I was working on last night when you came home, Alex said. I kept thinking about you while I designed it. About how much you love to read and how you always curl up in corners with your books. Maya studied the design, her heart full of love for this man who thought about her even when she was thousands of miles away. It's beautiful, she said. The kids who use this library are going to love it. I hope so, Alex said. I want to build places that make people happy, the same way you make me happy. Maya turned and wrapped her arms around his neck. I love you, she said simply. I love you too, Alex replied. Welcome home. As they stood there in the morning sunlight, holding each other close, Maya realized that the real treasure she had found wasn't in some ancient ruin in the mountains. It was right here, in this moment, with this person who loved her exactly as she was. Home wasn't just a place to return to. It was a choice to make, every day, to build a life with someone who made even ordinary moments feel extraordinary.